So they, which means Jesus and the disciples, arrived at the other side of the lake, in the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus climbed out of the boat, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out from a cemetery to meet him. This man lived among the burial caves and could no longer be restrained, even with a chain. Whenever he was put into chains and shackles, as he often was, he snapped the chains from his wrists and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Day and night he wandered among the burial caves and in the hills, howling and cutting himself with sharp stones. When Jesus was still some distance away, the man saw him, ran to meet him, and bowed low before him. With a shriek he screamed, "Why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In the name of God, I beg you, don't torture me." But Jesus had already said to the spirit, "Come out of the man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus demanded, "What is your name?" And he replied, "My name is Legion, because there are many of us inside this man." Then the evil spirits begged him again and again not to send them to some distant place. There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding on a hillside nearby. "Send us into those pigs," the spirits begged. "Let us enter them." So Jesus gave them permission. The evil spirits came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the entire herd of about 2,000 pigs plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned in the water. The herdsmen fled to the nearby town and the surrounding countryside, spreading the news as they ran. People rushed out to see what had happened. A crowd soon gathered around Jesus, and they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons. He was sitting there fully clothed and perfectly sane, and they were all afraid. Then those who had seen what had happened told the others about the demon-possessed man and the pigs. And the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away and leave them alone. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. But Jesus says, "No, go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you and how merciful he has been." So the man started off to visit the 10 towns of that region and began to proclaim the great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed at what he told them. Pray with me. Oh Jesus, as we continue our morning together, we ask for your blessing. We need to hear from you today. We need your words of hope and love to come alive in our hearts, and we look to you for your grace and your mercy. We thank you for what you will do. Amen. We're continuing our series through the book of Mark, and we're talking about our amazing Jesus. And I don't want to keep you in suspense, and I'm going to tell you right away what the big idea for the morning is. Just so that you know right up front, Jesus is in charge. In case you were wondering, our Jesus is in charge. He has all authority over the physical world, and especially the spiritual world. And we need to know that. Now, just prior to the story that I read, there was Jesus and the disciples were teaching people, and then Jesus said, "All right, we're going on a field trip. Go on, get in the boat." And everybody got in the boat, and they just were sailing out into the Sea of Galilee. And a storm comes up. And in the middle of this, the disciples are saying, "We're fishermen, but we don't know how to deal with this big storm. We're going to die. Jesus, don't you care that we die out here?" And Jesus goes, all right. Storm, settle down. And the storm settles down. And they get to the other side of the lake, the southeast corner of the Sea of Galilee. And that is where the disciples understand that they are not in Kansas anymore. This is a new area. There's no Jews that live out in this area. There's no family members. This is a totally different area. They call it the Decapolis, or the 10 cities are in that region. And out from the cemetery runs this man who the Bible says he was demon possessed. And when Jesus climbed out of the boat, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out from the tombs to meet him. Now consider ourselves enlightened people, and some of us might think, people don't get demon possessed anymore. This person was probably a multiple personality person, maybe schizophrenia. We don't understand what the people at that time understood, but we know two things. Two main things that we know for sure is that this man was oppressed in the deepest way. He lives among the tombs. And don't think too long about this, but they don't have gardens out in the tombs. They don't have marketplaces out in the tombs. I don't know where this guy is getting his food. But this is just not a normal situation. He runs around and he howls at the moon. He cuts himself with sharp stones. He's tormented in the deepest way. His situation is hopeless without Jesus. The Bible talks about it in John chapter 10. Jesus is talking about Satan. He said, the thief, he comes only to steal and kill and destroy. But I have come that you might have life. And you can have life to the full. See, Jesus is still the authority there. He's still in charge. This man is so oppressed and possessed. But he knows the second thing that we know. He knows that Jesus is in charge. He runs out of the tombs and he comes running up and he says, Jesus, why are you interfering with me? Jesus, Son of the Most High God. Even the disciples, they're in the boat with Jesus in this storm, and he calms the storm, and they ask, who is this? Who is this that calms storms? Even the wind and the waves obey him. Who is this? And this demon-possessed guy runs out and says, I know exactly who you are. You're Jesus. You're the Son of the Most High God. You're the one in charge. This is Jesus who is in charge. He has all authority. And I'm wondering sometimes whether we believe that. Do we believe that Jesus is in charge? Because there's so much chaos and corruption in our world. There's so much trouble and trials that we go through. There's so much corruption and destruction and dysfunction. Is Jesus really in charge? And, Matt says these things, but no. It can't be that our God has all authority. The way I grew up knowing about this is that Jesus is in charge. And Satan and the darkness in this world, the evil in this world, is like a little dog tied up to a stake. And Jesus says, no. You can only go that far. That's as much as I'm allowing you to go. And as much as that little dog is a ferocious dog and scares people around it can only go that far. It may be a circumference. But our Jesus is in charge. And he has limited the evil in this world. Even though we go, oh, it's so huge, it can't be this way. This is still my Father's world. But let me never forget that though the wrong seems so strong, he is still the ruler yet. This man knows that Jesus is in charge. He has authority over heaven and earth. But there's also one more thing that we need to understand. Jesus is in charge, but he also changes us. Just like this man, he changes us. Jesus addressed the spirits in this man. He says, come out of this man, you evil spirits. And they have no choice to say, well, where are you going to put us at? They're begging me. Don't send us so far away. Just send us into the pigs and it'll be good. And they're begging Jesus It's not like, hey, we're in charge here. No, they're begging to go somewhere close by. Maybe we'll go into the pigs. And the pigs run down the hill, and they run down into the lake, and they die. And you would think that people would be really happy when they came back and they see this formerly social outcast, problem child of the town, sitting in his right mind. He's dressed as he should be, and he's sane. You would think that people would be happy that this man has been changed by Jesus. You would think that, wouldn't you? If someone here had same situation, you would think that we would all be happy about it, wouldn't we? This is a person with a problem, and Jesus changed their life. Oh, great! Thank you. What did they do? What did these people do? They said, Jesus, you know, it's nice that this guy is in his right mind, but Jesus, you're bad for business. We lost 2,000 pigs here. Do you see this, Jesus? Could you just leave the area before more bad things happen? These people don't understand that Jesus changes lives always for the better. This man who's cutting himself, howling at the moon, and can't be controlled, is sitting in his right mind, perfectly sane. That's our Jesus, and he changes lives. Do we see that? If you are here today, hopefully you're saying, I'm an example. Jesus has changed my life. Of all the things that have happened in my world, Jesus has changed my life. And maybe you guys, but I don't anticipate that you guys are howling at the moon or running around cutting yourselves and shackled up and go, oh, these are nothing, snap the shackle. That's probably not you. And if it was, that is a great story. But Jesus has changed your life. He has all the authority to change your life. Which brings us to the last thing that I need to understand. Jesus is in charge. He changes lives. And he commands us. He commands us. The man who Jesus has just freed, he has changed his life, comes to him and begs him, would you allow me to follow you wherever you go? And Jesus says no. Of all the other people that you've heard in the Bible, when is the last time Jesus says, I don't want you to follow me? No. A total rejection. And you can imagine this young, we don't even know how old he is. However how old he is, says, what? I'm not supposed to follow you. But this is what happened. Jesus says no, but then he says go. He says no, and then he says, I'm going to send you, I'm going to command you to go. And then let me read it to you. Jesus said, no, go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you and how merciful he has been. And I hope you hear this. Jesus never says no unless he's got a better purpose for you. He never says no unless he's got a better plan for you. This is not only for us as people, but also things. Before today, this stage, it was not a stage where people were going to praise God from. It was something, I think he took rocks with this one, takes bales of hay different places, drives tractors up on there. That's what it was for. And today, God had a different purpose for this. This building, celebration, it was an old car dealership. And Jesus says, no. I got a better purpose for this building. Oh, you can sell cars out of there. That's great. It's useful. But my purpose for it is that people might hear about Jesus. And that Jesus, who's in charge, will change their lives. You understand that you have a better purpose. But you have a different purpose than for when you didn't know Jesus. He comes up to us and says, I love you. You can't stay like this. The purpose for your life right now is so inadequate. I've got a bigger purpose. I got something bigger. And he commands us to go and tell people about Jesus. Go tell your family about how Jesus has changed you inside. Go tell people. Use your words if you can. Definitely use your actions. Show people how Jesus has changed you. But since Jesus has the authority in heaven and earth, he commands us to go. Show and tell people how you've been changed. Can you imagine? Imagine this man who comes home, goes to his town, sees his family. Maybe dad, mom, grandpa, and grandma are there. Maybe he's got kids. Who knows? He comes home. And news travels fast. It probably got there before he physically got there. And the news will go like wildfire. He comes home and they're saying, oh man, we got to hear this story. He comes home and he goes, hey, I'm home. Great. You're in trouble again. You probably caused all those pigs to fall down into the water you drowned, right? You probably did that. They're gonna come looking for us. And then I got to tell you, I'm not in trouble anymore. I'm not crazy. This guy changed my life. I was so possessed. I was so oppressed. I was so troubled. But this guy, Jesus, changed me. He said, I have a different purpose in life than what I was presently doing. I have a different purpose. Jesus gave me a new purpose. You know that story? Let me finish with this. There was an author, his name was John Killinger. He tells the story of a man who was a successful owner of a CEO of a company. Oh, successful. And he's in a hotel room in Canada and he's all alone, but he's overwhelmed by the pressures of leading this company. And he's at the end. He's had so much, and then he's hit so rock bottom. And out loud he kind of says in the room, life isn't worth living this way. I wish I were dead. And then he speaks out aloud even more, and he's like, God, it's a joke, right? It's a joke. Life is nothing but a joke. And then it occurs to him, he hasn't prayed to God since he was a small boy. He hasn't prayed to God since he was a small boy. And then he just started talking for the first time. Since he was a small boy, he starts talking with guys and talking about how messy his life is, how anxious he is on every day, how nervous he is, how tired he is, and how much he wanted life to be so much more different than it is right now. And then the man goes, I heard it distinctly in my head. This voice that says, it doesn't have to be this way. And he stopped. He goes, what? Because he said, I heard it distinctly, and he just laughs, and he thought he must be hearing things. But the words were still in his head. It doesn't have to be this way. And he went home and he talked with his brothers, and his brother's a pastor, and he says, do you think God was speaking to me? Brother goes, of course. Because that's the message of God to all people. to every one of us. And it says it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to be anxious or depressed or selfish or hopeless. That Jesus can change your life. And if you sincerely ask him, he will make you a new person. And a few days later, he calls his brother back. He says, "You were right. Jesus did that to me. I'm a new man. Jesus changed my life." And the story that this guy tells, it ends with the man sometimes still gets worried. He still sometimes gets a little anxious. But in the middle of the day now, he's able to go to the local church. And he'll just sit in the pews. He'll just sit in the seats. And he says, it clears my head and reminds me who I am and whose I am. And I'm not my own anymore. I belong to Jesus. And each time he sits there, he thinks back to that day in that hotel room. And he thinks of that day when he hears clear in his head, it doesn't have to be this way. Jesus walks into lives that have been tormented and have such troubles. The lives of people like us that their purpose in life was nowhere near fruitful or productive. And it is our Jesus who has all the power and authority in heaven and earth that changed us. It changes the people you know as well. You know, he changes us and says, no, I don't physically follow me. I want you to go wherever I send you. Follow me with your heart and go and tell people how I have changed you. And that's for us today. When you go, tell people that Jesus will change his life. Pray with me. Jesus, it's you who has all authority on heaven and on earth. We do your will, and we ask for your kingdom to come, on earth as it is in heaven. We praise you because you have changed our lives. We leave here today to do your will in all that we do. We love you.